Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm a general physician. I'm not an endocrinologist. Yes, today we'll be discussing on how you approach to a person with hypothyroidism, hypopituitarism. So it is a very useful topic. Once in a while you will come across such endocrine disorders in your everyday practice. By and large, there is another word which we commonly utilize in a person who develops a hypopituitarism. And if this hypopituitarism develops in a very early childhood, they will have such stature we call dwarfism. We'll be discussing regarding dwarfism can be because of many other conditions. So we'll be discussing that particular part separately. But one of the finding in a hypopituitarism, if it is before the fusion of epiphysis, it will lead into this type of condition we call as dwarfism. So we are going to talk about hypopituitarism. Definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. Basically the meaning is very simple. Hypo means decrease. Decrease secretion of one hormone or more than one hormone of pituitary gland. By and large it is taken for granted anterior pituitary. So it is always said that one or multiple hormones of anterior pituitary. If there is an hyposecretion, you label that as hypopituitarism. When all the hormones of anterior pituitary, including even we call posterior pituitary, then we call that as a pan-hypopituitarism. But also if all the hormones of anterior pituitary are having hyposecretion, then also the word utilized is pan-hypopituitarism. There is another name for pan-hypopituitarism is Simon's disease. So Simon's disease is indirectly called as pan-hypopituitarism. There is another called as a Sihan syndrome. This is because of pituitary apoplexy due to hemorrhage during postpartum period or during puerperial period. You can have a posterior lobe hyposecretion which results into central diabetes insipidus. So by definition, decreased secretion of pituitary gland, one or more hormone of pituitary gland, and that we call as hypopituitarism. It can be primary if pituitary gland is at fault. So pituitary gland secretes less hormone, and if it is secondary, means pituitary gland is now not getting stimulated because of defect in hypothalamus. It is most commonly because of hypothalamus. So that is called secondary hypopituitarism. So pituitary gland hyposecretion will result into dwarfism or acromichria or Simon's disease. This is pan-hypopituitarism. And posterior pituitary gland which results into hyposecretion will result into diabetes insipidus. And when anterior and posterior both are at fault, it usually results into a condition called as a dystrophia adiposa genitalis. So there is dystrophia, there is adiposity, that is obesity with hypogonadism. So it is called dystrophia adiposa genitalis. In this, Lawrence-Moon-Middle syndrome and Frawley syndrome, two common disorders which will come. So classification wise, primary, secondary, we can call genetic or acquired. It is one of the common etiology is tumor. So we call secreting tumors, non-secreting tumors, or we call tumors and non-adenomas. Single hormone secretion hypo or pan-hypopituitarism. And etiological wise, we can divide into primary and secondary. And in primary, it can be infection, trauma, tumor, vascular, radiation, surgery, and drugs. One of the most common cause of vascular which produces infarction or we call pituitary apoplexy, we call Sihan syndrome, or there is also another name we call as Simon's disease. This is Sihan syndrome, which will come during postpartum period. So this is common during pregnancy. Sorry, after pregnancy. Iatrogenic is very frequently because of radiation surgery. So radiation in surgery is iatrogenic cause of hypopituitarism. Or pituitary gland can be invaded by, there is an invasive etiology we call by tumor, which can be large pituitary tumor. Usually we use the word macroadenoma, and that can compress all the other secreting cells and results into hypopituitarism. While tumors of hypothalamus can also produce compression of the pituitary gland. Classical example, craniopharyngioma, and that will result into what we call as a secondary hypopituitarism. Pituitary gland can be infiltrated by certain material like sarcoidosis or hemochromatosis, and this is not very common but can be one of the cause of infiltration and destruction of the pituitary gland, that is sarcoidosis and hemochromatosis. In a head injury, pituitary gland can be damaged, so that will be because of a traumatic causes. While infection like tuberculosis, or we call tubercular meningitis, can end up with a destruction of the pituitary gland, and when we can't identify the cause, we label that as idiopathic. So these are all the different etiology what you can come across. So we call infection, trauma, tumor, vascular, radiation, surgery, and drugs. Even if the person is given some drugs which blocks the secretion of pituitary gland, can end up with hypopituitarism. Maybe a single hormone or maybe multiple hormones. So these are all the different etiologies separated out. In tumor, it can be primary pituitary tumor, can be adenoma, can be hyperplasia, but hyperplasia will usually result into hyperpituitarism. But if there is a macroadenoma or it is a adenocarcinoma, it will compress the surrounding structures and give rise to hypopituitarism, and end result will be panhypopituitarism. So it can be adenoma or adenocarcinoma. Craniopharyngioma is basically a tumor of hypothalamus, can compress the pituitary gland, can end up with a hypopituitarism, and end result will be panhypopituitarism. Some odd tumors of cerebrum can also end up with a tumor compression of pituitary gland. So craniopharyngioma is a hypothalamic tumor which will suppress, the functional suppression can be there from craniopharyngioma, and there can be, craniopharyngioma itself produces the tumor pressure effects, while there can be suppression of a hypothalamus secreting what we call as the releasing factors, and this is called functional suppression, which can be because of exogenous steroid use or because of anorexia nervosa, because of extreme exercise, systemic illness, etc. All this will suppress the releasing hormone from hypothalamus and can end up with what we call as a functional suppression of an axis. Isolated growth hormone secretion can be impaired because of hypothalamus releasing hormone, because of this group of condition: exercise, anxiety, systemic illness, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, etc. can result into isolated growth hormone secretion is reduced, and that secretion will have effect on a pituitary gland, decreasing the production of a growth hormone. So that can be impaired. We already told you sarcoidosis, hemochromatosis can have an infiltration in the pituitary gland and can have a destruction. In Sihan syndrome, vascular necrosis because of infarct, that is vascular etiology. So infarction of pituitary gland because of a vascular etiology, that we call as a Sihan syndrome, very commonly during postpartum period. A severe hypotension or cranial artery autoimmune involvement can also produce involvement of the pituitary gland and produces necrosis or infarction. Traumatic etiology, head injury can also produce damage. Infection like meningitis, very rare syphilis. We have already mentioned surgery and irradiation. And another condition which can also end up, if there is a use of glucocorticoid for a very long period, or thyroid hormone also isolated, means prolonged use of glucocorticoid or a thyroid hormone can produce suppression of ACTH and suppression of TSH, and that can end up with what we call as a hypopituitarism. So prolonged use of glucocorticoid and thyroid hormone in a larger dose can end up with that conditions. You can divide into two groups: adenomatous, non-adenomatous. Non-adenomatous means which does not, they are non-secreting tumors. Non-secreting tumors like craniopharyngioma, which is a basically tumor of hypothalamus. You can a tumor related to the meninges called meningiomas. Tumor of the brain we call gliomas. Very rare tumors of what we call as a bony structure like chondromas, chordomas, metastatic tumors from breast and other structures, or there can be a destruction by non-pituitary radiotherapy. You are not radiating the pituitary but surrounding structure, and that can also destroy pituitary gland and end up with an infiltrative disorder we already mentioned, hemochromatosis and sarcoidosis. And this also we have mentioned. One of the condition where already the pituitary gland is totally destroyed and there is nothing in pituitary gland area. We call as a sella is empty. So it is called empty sella syndrome. You can also infiltration by lymphocytic materials, or rare disorders, that is we call genetic disorders. So these are all the risk factors which can end up with pituitary gland destruction, invasion, infarction, that is in a postpartum period, or we also use the word pituitary apoplexy, infiltration, injury, immunological disorders, iatrogenic infections, idiopathic and isolated deficiency can be there. So these are all the conditions which we have already mentioned. Genetic defects like pituitary dysplasia, or there can be some syndromes we call Kallmann syndrome, which is called hypogonadism, Lawrence-Moonbedel syndrome, that is adiposa genitalis, Frawley syndrome, again that is adiposa genitalis, and there is another called is a Prader-Willi syndrome. These are all genetic disorders. Because of genetic disorder, it can end up with multiple pituitary hormone deficiency. There is another called as a septo-optic dysplasia, which is a very common in children, and that is a mutation of HESX1 gene, and that can end up with all this defect: cleft defect, syndactyly, ear deformity, optic atrophy, micropenis, anosmia, etc. And as far as the pituitary dysfunction is concerned, diabetes insipidus, growth hormone deficiency, so short stature, and may be associated with TSH deficiency, so hypothyroidism. So this can be a multiple disorders together. So because of optic atrophy, it is optic dysplasia, and there is a defect in a cleft palate, syndactyly, and ear deformity together, with disorders involving even the what we call as the genital organs, even anosmia can be there, lack of sense of smell. So these are all the things can be together, and this is genetic in etiology because of defect in this gene, mutation in this gene. So this is decreased production of a diabetes, means ADH production we call as a cranial diabetes insipidus or central diabetes insipidus. And these are all the different causes which can destroy posterior pituitary gland and can result into mainly decrease in ADH production rather than oxytocin production. So it can be because of craniopharyngioma, secondary tumors like metastasis, pituitary tumor, suprasellar extension, granulomatous disease, meningitis, abscess, encephalitis, vascular disease, trauma, surgery, what we call as iatrogenic, or even because of radiation. And when we can't identify the cause, we call that as idiopathy. Simon's disease, or we call it a panhypopituitarism. The three most common causes of panhypopituitarism: non-secretory adenoma compressing the secretory cells of anterior pituitary and can end up with a complete destruction of the pituitary gland, and that can end finally into what we call as the empty sella syndromes. So pituitary gland is almost totally destroyed and you can't find any pituitary material in a sella. So postpartum destruction we call Sehan syndrome, and that is very commonly in a postpartum period. So these are the three common conditions: non-secretory adenoma, pituitary apoplexy or pituitary necrosis or pituitary infarcts in Sehan syndrome in a postpartum period, and empty sella syndrome because of a destruction of the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland shrinks or almost becomes flat, and that we call as Simon's disease or we call panhypopituitarism. 76% of the tumors or treatment of tumor can end up with hypopituitarism. 13% of the time it is because of craniopharyngioma, that is extra pituitary tumor or we call hypothalamic etiology. 8% is idiopathic, 1% is sarcoidosis, and see the percentage of Sehan syndrome, only 0.5%. It is not very common, but it can happen during postpartum period. So do remember. So it is very simple that depending upon the hormone lack, if it is single hormone, cortisol deficiency or we call Addison's disease can be resulted because of ACTH defects. Hypothyroidism or we call secondary hypothyroidism because of TSH deficiency. Diabetes insipidus we call as a central diabetes insipidus because of ADH deficiency. FSH-LH will give rise to hypogonadism. Growth hormone deficiency will give rise to stunted growth we call as a dwarfism. And abscess of prolactin will give rise to what we call as a inability to have milk production in a postpartum period. We call as a defect in lactation. And this is all depending upon which hormone is deficiency. If many hormones are affected, we usually use the word panhypopituitarism. So these are all the different hormones which are secreted from hypothalamus. They are called releasing hormone and inhibitory hormone. These are all releasing hormone which will have a stimulation on adenohypophysis. This will result into FSH-LH which will have an effect on gonads. Corticotropic releasing hormone on adrenal cortex. TRH will have release of TSH and will have effect on thyroid gland. Prolactin will have effect on a mammary gland, and GHRH will have effect on liver and what we call as muscle and bones. So if these are defective, you will have a hypogonadism, hypoadrenalism, hypothyroidism, difficult in lactation or lactation is absent during puerperial period, and person will have a stunted growth, we call as a dwarfism. So when all the hormones are affected, you will have a panhypopituitarism. So all these things will be together in a single person. And if only one hormone is affected, you will have a single defect. While in a posterior pituitary, mainly ADH hormone is being affected. Very rarely oxytocin is affected, absolutely rare. So ADH hormone will give rise to what we call as a central diabetes insipidus. So clinical picture will depend upon the which hormone. If FSH-LH is affected, hypogonadism, along with amenorrhea, infertility. TSH, secondary hypothyroidism. ACTH, adrenal deficiency, adrenocortical insufficiency. Prolactin, failure of lactation during postpartum period. And if all of the above are affected, panhypopituitarism. Growth hormone affected, short stature, we call dwarfism. So this will be the clinical picture. So clinical picture will depend upon which hormone will be affected. We have already mentioned all those things. Plus, if pituitary gland is having either adenoma, adenocarcinoma or secondary metastasis or even extension from hypothalamus like craniopharyngioma, it will result into what we call as a tumor effects. And these tumor effects will produce headache, vomiting and blood vision because of papilledema. Plus, because of increase in the size of the pituitary gland, it will destroy clearance process. So widening of pituitary fossa. Then there will be compression of a chiasma, we call chiasmal syndrome. In that, you will have a bitemporal hemianopia, you can have a quadrantic hemianopia, and multiple different types of visual field defects. It can also compress hypothalamus, and compressing hypothalamus will produce decreased production of a hypothalamic releasing hormones, and that can also end up with a hypopituitarism, as well as it will also compress all the normal secreting cells of a pituitary gland and end up with a hypopituitarism, and final will be panhypopituitarism. It can also compress the cavernous sinus structures, and in cavernous sinus 3, 4, 5 and 6 cranial palsy can be a finding in a case of a pituitary tumors. So these are all the different manifestation which you can come across in a pituitary gland tumors or because of a secondary metastasis in pituitary glands. So final outcome, dwarfism, acromicorrhea or Simon's disease. These two conditions will be there, dwarfism etc. will be seen if it occurs before the epiphysis is fused. Diabetes insipidus will be because of lack of what we call as ADH hormone if posterior pituitary is being destroyed, and that will happen if there is a compression of a posterior pituitary or if there is a destruction of a hypothalamus, and then we call that as a central diabetes insipidus. When both anterior and posterior pituitary along with growth hormones and what we call as a gonadotropic hormones, then it will result into obesity and hypogonadism, and that is given a name dystrophia adiposa genitalis, and this is very frequently because of genetic disorders, and that we call as a Lawrence-Moon-Medel syndrome, Frawley's syndrome. These two are the classical example of dystrophia adiposa genitalis. Simon's disease is ideally a rare disease. It is very commonly because of cachexia, and it will end up with a panhypopituitarism. These are all the disorders which you can end up with panhypopituitarism. ADH hormone defect, gonadotropic hormone defects, what you come across. So because of ADH, diabetes insipidus, because of gonadotropic hypogonadism, which will result into libido, aspermia, and loss of facial and body hair in a male person, while in a female, libido, amenorrhea, and infertility. In a child, delayed puberty and deficiency of growth. As far as the thyroid is concerned, secondary hypothyroidism. As far as adrenocortical is concerned, hypoadrenalism. And even MSH deficiency will produce what we call as a vitiligo or pallor. The pigmentation will be reduced, and that will produce that. And because of what we call as a growth hormone deficiency or somatotropics, you will have a dwarfism, the muscle loss will be there, and all organs will be small size, microsplanchia, and tendency to have hypoglycemia. So this will be the combined picture in a classical panhypopituitarism. And because of tumor itself, we have told you that it can extend up, producing a destruction of the pituitary glands, or you can have because of the craniopharyngioma extending from hypothalamus, destroying pituitary gland, or because of deposition of materials like hemochromatosis or sarcoidosis, or because of traumatic injury, etc. You can end up with hypopituitarism. These are all those pictures again shown in detail. All those. If there is a mild defect, if there is a moderate defect, etc. But this is a classical picture of a typical panhypopituitarism. And when there is a severe, whatever we have shown you before, you can have. So this will be the typical panhypopituitarism, what we have shown you before. So these are all those manifestations putting together: lethargy, libido, decreased cold tolerance, hypotension, hypoglycemia, diminished body hair, sterility, loss of secondary sexual characters, visual disturbances, and compression symptoms like blurred vision, loss of visual field, poor temperature control, raised intracranial pressure, signs like headache, vomiting, blurred vision, etc. All those together. And finally, person ends up with what we call as a death. So may his soul rest in peace. So these are the compression symptoms which you can see. These are all the hormones which are being defective, and what will be the symptoms are mentioned separately. We have already mentioned before, so I don't have to mention again. So typical picture, this is again, if it is congenital defects, what can happen? This is the typical dwarfism you can come across. You can see if there is a defect in the growth hormone, what you can get. You can get dwarfism. These are the typical dwarfism. Among investigation, most important is the clinical history and physical examination. To find out which hormone is defective, we will have to do a baseline study for TSH level, ACTH, FSH, LH, prolactin and growth hormone levels. And to confirm that, you might have to do what we call as a stimulation test by TRH or LHRH or by insulin producing hypoglycemia, which will stimulate growth hormone production and prolactin hormone production. To find out the etiology, X-ray skull lateral is very useful rather than AP, or it can be added by CT or MRI, and that will tell you the size of the pituitary gland and effect of a pituitary tumors on surrounding structures and evidence of raised intracranial pressure. We already told you the blood test should be done for the what we call as a hormone assay for TSH, ACTH, FSH, LH and prolactin and growth hormone. These are the hormones which are secreted by the pituitary gland, and that level should be done. You can do a stimulation test. You can do a brain imaging, that is CT and MRI. Visual test is very important to find out the compressive effect in a case of a pituitary gland tumors. And we have told you X-ray skull, particularly lateral skull, will help you to identify the effect of pituitary gland on surrounding structures. As well as X-ray of bony structures can also help you to identify in case of dwarfism, particularly because of the growth hormone defects. So blood test, dynamic study, brain imaging and vision test are the pillar. Growth hormone, gonadotropic hormones, FSH, LH and GnRH test. For TSH and free T44 level. And you can go for TRH test. And for prolactin, you will have to do a prolactin level. For ACTH, morning cortisol level, and you can go for glucagon test or you can go for synactin test. And in a growth hormone status, you can go for a proactive growth hormone test. You can do the IGF level, that is insulin like growth hormone factor, and you can go for this what we call as genetic studies. Insulin tolerance test can be done for ACTH and growth hormone. Glucagon test can be also for ACTH and growth hormone. For adrenocortical functions, you can go for somatostatin test, clomiphene test for gonadotropic, and GNH, RH and TRH tests are rarely utilized because these are not the common defects which you come across. These are all what we already mentioned regarding a stimulation test, that is glucagon test, arginine you can use, GHH-RH you can use, GHH-RH, clonidine test, etc. These are rarely being done, not common, not very common. Radiological study, we have told you to identify the microadenoma or macroadenoma, and you can go for a radiological study to find out the pressure effects. So MRI and CT scan is very helpful. So this will show you a microadenoma. This is a big tumor producing a compression of a surrounding structures. That will tell you a micro. Sagittal view gives you a lot of idea. This is coronal view. This is showing you a pituitary apoplexy, and then it will end up with the empty sella syndromes, pituitary apoplexy. Differential diagnosis, you will have to differentiate different etiology of pituitary gland like adenoma, apoplexy, hypothalamic tumor, metastasis, granulomatous infiltration like sarcoidosis, tuberculosis, eosinophilic granuloma, lymphocytic infiltration, etc. You will have to differentiate all those conditions by different investigation. As far as treatment is concerned, the main treatment is to restore the normal hormone level, particularly thyroid, adrenal cortical hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and growth hormones. So, whichever hormone is defective, we have to replace. We call hormone replacement therapy. If this hypopituitarism is because of tumor, surgical removal or by radiotherapy, we call as a radiation. So surgery and radiation therapy is one of the treatment in the case of tumors. We call adenoma, adenocarcinoma, or even in case of what we call as a secondary metastasis producing the compression. So that should be also removed surgically, or radiotherapy can be one of the treatment. So removal, replacement therapy, particularly for thyroxine, ACTH, growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, and you might require FSH/LH to produce ovulation. So depending upon which is defective, accordingly you replace it. And if all are defective, you will have to give thyroxine, hydrocortisone, growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, and even you might have to take care of FSH/LH. So these are all the hormones which can be replaced in a pan-hypopituitarism, including even prolactin during a puerperial period. Complications are mainly because of defect in hormone and because of defect individual hormone or because of multiple hormones. So if FSH/LH is defective, hypogonadism, secondary hypothyroidism, adrenocortical deficiency, or we call as a hypoadrenalism, prolactin deficiency will produce postpartum lactation deficiency, and if all are defective, panhypopituitarism, growth hormone defects, dwarfism, and tumor effects. You can come across tumor effects. Adenoma can produce compression of the posterior pituitary and can produce diabetes insipidus, but usually adenoma do not produce diabetes insipidus so commonly. The commonest defect is growth hormone, second common is gonadotropic hormone, then comes TSH, and rare is ACTH. Long-term hypopituitarism can be treated by steroid, but when it is treated by steroid, it will mask diabetes insipidus. ACTH deficiency will not produce much amount of pigmentary defects and hyperkalemia. So this hypopituitarism is good number of time you will face in your everyday practice. I end my lecture here. I hope it will be very useful to you in your everyday practice.